And it's time to talk travel for our sponsor, Travel on King. Sally Lucas joining me, Jane Klein, today, and a whole host of interesting things coming your way. The first one we're going to start off with, Sally, is Rome. Parts of Rome we didn't know existed, digging deep down.
Exactly, and I guess this is just about anywhere in Europe you would find this happening if you decided to dig down. And in Rome they're saying that virtually every structure is perched on top of another older one. So it's a virtual millefeuille of history with just layers piled endlessly on top of each other. But some of them have been really recently discovered and restored, so you can actually get to see them, which is even more exciting, I think, really.
I suppose if some of the later buildings come down or fall down or are taken down,
they'll find or discover these things, which is really quite remarkable. So the most recent discovery was referred to by a historian as the Sistine Chapel of the Middle Ages.
Ooh.
And it's a 6th century church at the base of the Palatine Hill in the Roman Forum. And after the church of Santa Maria Antica was destroyed by an earthquake in the 9th century, a new one was built above it. So for 1,000 years, the older church lay forgotten. It was uncovered in 1900 and eventually reopened in 2016 after a lengthy restoration of about 3.7 million. So they're saying the most remarkable attribute is its frescoes depicting saints, healers and martyrs. Not all of them are in good repair, but an accomplished series of digital projections reveals what the frescoes once looked like. So they've been very clever in what they've done in that regard. As they say, the article says, as often happens in Italy, the church has erratic opening hours.
Oh, lovely.
Don't you like that? Sometimes closing for months at a time. However, it is usually open during the peak of spring and summer months. So just keep that in mind if you're interested. The other one is, while Santa Maria Antica was overlooked, there was another recently restored site is tucked away in one of the famous attractions. Now, for 2,000 years, the Colosseum, we all know about and has incredible grandeur, imperial grandeur about it. But it's also now, you can go down and see where the countless brutal battles were prepared in the underground area, they're calling it.
Oh, where the gladiators were.
Yes, so you can do an underground tour, they're calling it now, but it's only, again, open certain days of the month, only certain times of the year, but at least you can do that, and you've got to do it as a properly guided tour. It's not a self-guided one, because they're taking you through to this bottom level where the gladiators and beasts, waited for their turn to fight battle in the ring. So that's interesting as well. So that's another one you could do. The other one is the Basilica di San Clemente, and it was, you enter from the street, you enter a 12th century basilica, which in itself is just magnificent, but a lot of that was destroyed, and then you can go down now through that into the older church beneath again. So a small staircase takes you down to the first church, where there are 1,000-year-old frescoes depicting the life of San Clemente. And another staircase indicates that you can go even deeper down into history, and you go there before the Roman Empire even converted to Christianity. And there's remnants of ancient buildings there, including a shrine dedicated to the Persian god Mithras. So very interesting that you can do all of these things, and there's quite a few more of them if you want to have a look. If you just Google and go in and look at these antiquated areas, and look, honestly, just looking at the picture, Jane, I can show you here, or I can show everybody. Look at some of these frescoes.
And we can see that on the video we're making of this show too, Rome's big reveal. Yeah. And the freschi are just wonderful.
Aren't they wonderful? That's in San Clemente. That was the one we were just talking about. So just quite remarkable what you can discover when you start digging deep down into it over these thousands of years of history. It's the same when you go to the Notre Dame. You can see the original city, the Ile de la Cité, that was back to the Roman times. They've found, parts of that underneath the Notre Dame. So again, a lot of these old cities or old countries, that have been going for many, many years of civilizations have got so many secret treasures buried underneath.
And as you were saying about Rome, an earthquake destroyed one of those churches. Yes. And it's normally we think of that as being destructive, but in some cases it would preserve. Well, Sally, don't you think Tahiti sounds nice?
Like the ad used to say, Jane, if our listeners could remember the old Cussons ad and the lady soaping herself up in a bath on a plane of all things. Tahiti looks nice, Simon. Anyway, Tahiti is nice. It's a lovely spot, I must say, with the most beautiful crystal blue lagoons and waters and white sandy beaches, friendly people, all that you would expect from a Polynesian island, and it is delightful. So these are just a few little things that I thought people might like to know about Tahiti that they may not know. The word tattoo, for example, comes from the Tahitian word tatau, and they're considered signs of beauty, of course, amongst Polynesians, which is where tattooing all started. And they are ceremoniously applied to the body when reaching the adolescent period in their life, so that's interesting. Now, the airline Air Tahiti Nui is the first international airline actually based in Tahiti. So there you go. The Tahitian alphabet consists of only 13 letters.
Oh, that's interesting.
Isn't that interesting? The vowels A, E, I, O, U and the consonants F, H, M, N, P, R, T and V. Isn't that interesting? There is a church in one of the areas it's called Whakarava, and it's called Jean de Croix, and that's made entirely of coral. The whole church. Wonderful. Another fact you may or may not know that Bora Bora served as a supply base and home to 6,000 US military personnel in the war. Archery.
And it's not a US set of islands, is it?
No, it's not.
French-based.
French, definitely. Archery used to be a sacred sport in Tahiti during the ancient times. The official language is French, which you may know, but English, however, is spoken fairly prominently these days. And the overwater bungalow was invented in Tahiti in the 1960s, the first country to have overwater bungalows. Isn't that interesting?
We've got lots to thank them for.
Lots. There are boxes outside the homes of Tahitian residents that are often mistaken for mailboxes, but they're actually for their French bread delivery.
Of course.
How French. And also there are no poisonous snakes or insects there, so that makes it even more appealing to go to, other than its beauty and everything else that goes with being a French Polynesian island.
Definitely attractive.
I just thought I'd mention, Jane, winter is going to be upon us before we know it here, but you might also like to go to Europe in their winter rather than do something in our winter. And every year we get some wonderful itineraries come out that you can really immerse yourself in all the winter activities that are available in Europe. So there's one here is Switzerland. I'll just giving you three examples. One Switzerland, one Italy and one in France. And these are run by Albatross Tours. They have a whole wonderful winter program. And you're actually staying in the most beautiful, charming hotel in Zermatt in the Swiss Alps. So you're surrounded by 4,000 metre high mountains, including the mighty Matterhorn. And you also get to go to Salzburg and Innsbruck and explore the Austrian Lakes District and Klosters, horse-drawn carriage rides, all sorts of interesting things, and a ride on the famous Glacier Express. So that's a wonderful itinerary.
And a fantastic area.
Oh, beautiful. That goes on the 24th of January. Now, there's a French one on the 25th of January. Oh, that one, sorry, by the way, is 12 days, that itinerary. There's an 11-day holiday. You get 5 nights in the French Alps with this one as well. So that's just wonderful. You're in the areas of, or the area you're in is Megève, but it's quite near Montreux. And you can go to see Chaplin's Vevey on the Swiss Riviera, the hilltop town of Gruyère, and also Lakeside Annecy and Chamonix in the wonderful Mont Blanc mountain range, which is just fabulous as well. Also go to exclusive Courchevel in Les Trois Vallées, and you can take a cable car up to the roof of Europe, of course, where you get that wonderful view of the whole across those Mont Blanc mountain range area. So, and you have a night in Zurich in that one, as well as having your time in France. So that's another nice one. And lastly, there's an Italian one on the 4th of February. And you're staying 3 nights in a 900-year-old Italian castle set in the foothills of the Italian Dolomites. And you visit Cortina d'Ampezzo and, of course, the romantic city of Venice. And you have 3 nights in a walled Tuscan city of Lucca. And you visit Florence, of course, and San Gimignano. And you go to enjoy lunches in traditional osterias in an olive farmhouse estate, etc. So wonderful itineraries. That one's a 9-day. So some lovely winter things to think about.
And plenty of beautiful snow to look at on the mountains.
Wonderful. It should be at that time of the year when you're going January, February. You're sort of a bit more assured of snow than if you're going prior to Christmas.
Sally Lucas, before we take a look at the hot deals in the current travel marketplace, a bit of a warning if you're booking a holiday online.
Definitely. And remember, when you are booking online, you are, of course, only dealing with an engine, a search engine. You're not dealing with a real person. And that is the really big difference. I can't say that strongly enough, that if you're dealing with a travel agent, and a well-seasoned travel agent, I should say particularly, who's not trying to sell you travel insurance as well, and you'll get good advice and you'll know what you should be doing and what you shouldn't be doing, and about insurance and what's covered exactly with pre-existing, or, there's just lots of little loopholes that you really need to discuss and not just assume. It happened recently. It was an article in the Sydney Morning Herald by Michael Pascoe, and he was writing about a guy who came to all sorts of grief because he'd booked up with an online company called budgetair.com, and as he finishes the end of the article, he says the words budget and air don't really go well together.
Yes, that's fair.
And of course it was an entity registered in the Netherlands, which is a tax haven operating out of a call centre in India. And of course they're denying anything, and they're saying they're affiliated with IATA, which is the International Air Transport Association, and he says that means nothing as well, just saying you're affiliated. So he said you really got to look into that, and this gentleman should have checked, or either through TripAdvisor or other ways you can check if you're dealing with a legitimate company. So just be really careful. And then he wasn't covered by insurance either, because in the end the flight he was booked on was only operating once a week instead of daily, as he thought, out of Havana of all places. So then he was down to his last dollar, and, he had to get help from parents and get financial help to get him out of there. Missed his Qantas flight home out of LA because of everything else, etc., etc., etc. So cut a long story short, please be very careful. And honestly, these days, most travel agents can match what you can get online anyway, and with security. And the other thing that happens when you're booking online, it's not till you get to the very end do you really know what you're paying. They'll come up with a fare, but then at the end you'll find it, plus taxes, plus booking your seat, plus if you want a meal, plus luggage, plus. So it comes out not as cheap as when you initially are having a look. And also the other thing to be very careful of, which we found out on behalf of a lady this week, she thought she was getting a really cheap fare, but it was in US dollars.
And that's a lot more these days
than
Australian dollars.
Just be extremely careful, that's all I'm saying, because even though the internet is a wonderful tool, it can be fraught with a few problems as well if you don't know who you're really dealing with.
Yes, that's true.
Anyway, on to nicer things.
Yeah.
Talking Tahiti as we were. If you want to book before 30 April, and it's travel from 1 April this year, which is past, of course, up until March, the end of March next year. So that's really a long period of time that you can get this package for. And it's staying at the wonderful Intercontinental Resort and Spa in Moorea. And you're flying, of course, with Air Tahiti Nui. And it's 2 nights at the Intercontinental, and then you go across to the wonderful Moorea, which is the most beautiful island, for 5 nights. Return economy air, as I said. You meet and greet on arrival with transfers and buffet breakfast, and then you're taken by ferry across to Moorea, and that's included as well. So all of that from under $3,000 per person if you're looking for a nice romantic little getaway. It's beautiful. Some of the other things that are available on sale until the 3rd of May. Qantas Holidays has got a little package for you to see the northern lights in the Yukon region. So, of course, you don't have to go, into the Arctic Circle from Norway. You can see them from Canada, as we all know as well. And they've got a 3-night package there that's starting from under $800 for select travel dates between 16 May and this year through to 30 April next year. And as I said, on sale till 3 May if you're thinking of doing that. So that's lovely. Other thing I thought I'd mention, Jane, is how you can stay in most interesting places when you travel. You don't have to stay in, named hotels, which I don't, I must admit. I'm very much a 3-star lady, or bed and breakfast, or cottage, but there's lovely old places you can stay, like in Spain and Portugal. You can stay in these paradors, solares and posadas, and they're actually converted old hospitals, monasteries, convents, castles, and they're not expensive, and they're in some of the most delightful areas where you can stay. So just consider that when you're travelling, to stay in something authentic. Like even in Ireland and Scotland, you've got beautiful castles that you can stay in, and quite reasonably priced as well. Obviously there are some that are more expensive, but honestly, don't be shy away from it, is what I'm trying to say. You can stay in some really delightful places at no more than it would cost you to stay in a hotel,
and often
such
less. A distinction, haven't they?
The atmosphere and just everything about it is beautiful. Rocky Mountaineer, we have talked about Rocky Mountaineer before, and it's their 150th birthday this year, and they're just offering at the moment an extra hotel night free of charge. Now, this is the last promotion they're going to have for 2017 for their birthday, so all you've got to do is book one of their little packages, and and you'll get a free night in either Vancouver, Victoria, Calgary, Seattle, just to give you an idea. Now, that offer finishes June 2, and it's so long as you're buying a package of 5 days or more, you get the extra free night, so that's worth considering. There's winter packages, as we were discussing in Europe. Don't forget you've got winter in Canada too, so it'd be wonderful if you want to go to, Banff or Lake Louise. There's some winter delight packages there. Just to give you an idea, there's a 7-day one that does Banff and Lake Louise, 6 nights accommodation, activities, transfers by coach, and that's a touch over $1,100 if you're wanting to do a lovely winter holiday there. So there's lots out there in the marketplace as usual, Jane. There's always a bargain to be had somewhere. So we're very lucky.
Sounds great. Now, we won't be talking travel next
no.
Friday because it's Good Friday, Easter, and of course,
wow,
it's a
of
wonderful.
course. Yes.
It's the sensational 70s on 2NUR.
I wish all our listeners a wonderful Easter, and I hope you have it safe if you're travelling. That's the main thing. Stay safe and have a lovely 4-day break, and we'll see you in 2 weeks.
And thank you, Sally Lucas,
Thanks,
for
Jane.
today. And we'll talk travel in 2 weeks' time on 2NUR FM.